Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this evening's special edition of the Wacky Woo. With me, of course, this evening is Mr. JSNIP4 Woo Woo Dude, and of course, the lovely Penny Kelly. You can find her at pennykelly.com. You can find Joe here at Realist News and also at patreon.com/JSNIP4, and Richard here at woowoodude.com. Guys, ladies, welcome back to the show. How are you? And Happy New Year to all of you.
Yeah.
And you too. Yeah.
Yep, we're doing good.
Excited to have you guys
What
on.
a journey, huh?
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on this live interactive show tonight on Sunday night. We have a lot of material to go through with you guys. I have a bit of a poor connection. We have a storm here tonight. So if you see me dropping in and out, we'll just give the reins to Joe there. He's used to all of this
So
stuff.
are you saying that a storm is upon us?
Yes, but I'm not important. I'm not the important one who's going to say that on Twitter. Somebody else is. But yes, a storm is upon me. Very good. Oh man, guys, we'll try to take your comments as we go along. I'll bring it up on the screen for everyone here. We're all going to be sharing and try to decode what 2023 is going to look like. Apparently here in the month of January, as Joe, Penny, and Richard have been talking about here, it seems to be very, very critical for us and for humanity as a whole. I wanted to take a quick step back, though, seeing as we are in the first month of January here in 2023. Penny, if you were to recap in 1 minute why 2022 was important and how that set the stage for what's coming up here in 2023, what would you say to the audience members?
I would say that we had to see what was really happening, and it takes time for people to open up. And a lot of people are seeing now it's not looking real good. I wish they were seeing something a little better, but I'm absolutely grateful that people are beginning to say, this isn't working the way I thought it was going to work. So that's 2022 was the year of waking up. It's a Rip Van Winkle kind of ending.
Okay, very good. Joe, on the theme of things that make you go, you might want to beatbox on that. What would you share also for the audience members as how you saw 22 setting up here, what's about to come in 23?
Yeah, it was just kind of like touching on what Penny said. You know, it was an exposure where, as she was saying what she said, my mind goes to, well, things aren't the way I was told they're supposed to be, or I was led to believe they're supposed to be. Is what my mind was kind of saying, like, that's a little different way how I would probably say it. You know, because it was simply the waking up from the school system, indoctrinating our kids, to Twitter and the pedophiles and all. I mean, especially towards the end of the year, it just exploded with information. CIA, FBI, government collusion with Twitter, and of course we also know that means Facebook and YouTube and Google and everything else out there, because if they're doing it on Twitter, you can bet your sweet bottom they're doing it everywhere else too. And you know, so again, just a massive exposing of the government and the quote unquote system. Just everything. Again, the shots are now back in this. You know, we're not going to get too crazy, but the shots are back in the spotlight, and there's only so long people are going to go, you know, there's a lot of athletes having some problems. You know, and so that's another thing that's being exposed, we'll say, whatever that may be. So anyways, yeah, I think 2022 was the year of wakey sleepyheads, and 2023 is going to be the year of, okay, now something needs to get done about it. That's what I think.
Okay. Very good. Aspiring alchemists, watch your words, Joe. Yeah, you're right. We're still on YouTube here. Of course, we're triple casting between Realist News on YouTube, Penny Kelly's YouTube channel, and my channel. I just got dinged a couple of days ago. I did this 4-minute promo with this lady who was deleted a while back, and apparently I'm not allowed to talk to her even in the 5-minute promo. So I just got a nasty email. So yeah, censorship is still around. Of course, our friend like Queen Lisa lost her channel just a couple of days ago too. So guys, yes, please watch the language here tonight. What we do last but not least, 2022, why was it important, and how do you feel that sets the stage for what we're about to live through here in 2023?
If my cat could say anything to you, hang on, baby.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
The puss says, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you just have to grab it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. You know what? 22 was all about exposing the roots of the tree of evil. They run deeply throughout the whole world, and they're being exposed. All right. Now, as when I had the conversation with Joe, I think a week ago, I said they showed me the dominoes, and they were like, 4 to 10 times the size of the normal dominoes. And so now, instead of going, well, I really didn't see anything happen, everything that falls is going to have a shaking to it. And so everything for 22 is being set up to 23 for the shaking. And here we go. Okay. And I mean, that's on everything.
Yeah.
Everything. All right.
Everything.
I mean, one day after that interview with Joe, the Pope dies. Well, that was a hell of a hit, wasn't it?
Exactly.
I think the object here is that you have to adapt. Okay. It's like the greatest game of tag. The object is not to get tagged out immediately, right? So stay off to the side, adapt to what you're seeing, and understand that everybody's going to get shaken to the core as we continue through this following year. And how not to get tagged out is the key, right?
Exactly. And how not to get tagged out. I think Cliff High mentioned this last year. Don't win any stupid prizes. I think, Joe, is what he was saying. The YouTube channel. We were all repeating that quite a few times. Let me bring this up also for the audience members here who perhaps haven't seen this latest Substack by Cliff here. He's talking about the title here is System. And in this particular audio series, he's talking about something that he's picking up in the WebBot data. Joe, I want to bring you up on this here too. He's seeing the first of what he calls these derivative bombs here coming up very, very shortly in front of us. And what he's saying in this video is that this is going to be the first of many. And for a lot, this is going to be the jaw-dropping moment. I mean, you and I, Joe, have been talking about the reverse repos since before COVID, interbank interlending rates being through the roof. But that's behind the scenes. They're kind of patching everything over. What Cliff is really suggesting here is that this will be overt in a way that most of the mainstream public will realize the fragility of the banking system here in this first derivatives collapse, only to realize that much, much bigger ones are coming up after that, which changes the whole game set. Can you, Joe, talk about that a little bit here? How we're about to go through this systemic breakdown. As you said, everything we thought was one thing is another thing. How would you suggest the audience members and your followers on patreon.com, how do you navigate here through these systemic collapses one over the other? And how do you manage your energies and realize here that there is light at the end of the tunnel and to stay focused on that new earth that we want to create? What would you say to your audience members, Joe?
Well, it's like Woo Dude said, he gave some great advice that he's been repeating over and over. You're going to need some cash on hand. You're going to need some cryptos on hand. You are going to need some precious metals on hand. And, Cliff just sent us an email. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later about precious metals. He thinks this is the year. You're going to need these things because when one's going crazy, the other one might save you. And when that one's going crazy, one of the other ones might save you. That sort of thing. Maybe there's a time when you can't get your money out of the bank, but, well, I can use crypto somehow, or I could somehow use the gold and silver. I don't know how it's going to look. And again, it doesn't, if you got the means to have, extra foods, a few, 2-3 months of food, and, do you have a backup generator or those, things like that. If you got the means to make that happen, you should have, as long as we've been talking, you should have already had that done, but if you don't, and you don't have the kind of money to deal with it now or what have you, you just got to look at all these things and figure out what's the priority. Where do you live? What would help you more? Would 2 months of food help you more than a small generator? Depending on where you live and the timing and everything. In winter, some of the snow I've seen this year so far, or I should say the last couple of months, has been pretty intense in some places. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you got to have your head on a swivel. You're going to have to, I think it's still going to be a managed collapsing scenario where the banking system has to be taken down. I mean, I just saw a tweet that, Senator Ted Cruz wants to get rid of the IRS completely and do a flat tax. Do you agree? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, we're going to go after the committee. Who's going to go after the Department of Homeland Security because he's not doing his job with the border. They're going to impeach him. Like, this is right now. It's happening. Hey, boom, boom, boom. So, there's going to be some things that flick a domino over that flicks a subset of dominoes over, I think on some of these things. It's just, there's so many scenarios that could play out. It's just like, but I think having that crypto, a little bit of gold, silver, or just silver even, in the crypto, it would be a good start to, weather, I think, what's coming.
That's great advice, Joe. And Penny was saying at the beginning of the show here, we need to stay flexible and adaptive here to the situation. Now, Joe, Penny, Woo Dude, and myself here, we've been talking about this now for like 10 years, this idea of these bail-ins as opposed to the bailouts we saw in 2008, 2009. And now this is making mainstream news. This was in the news last week. These are the bankers, the FDIC, trying to debate on how much they should tell the public about the actual bail-ins and hoping not to create a premature or even more disastrous bank run. So you guys can go check that out. This is my Twitter. David Morgan also retweeted this particular video. Now, in the Beyond Crypto Woo show, the first of the season here for 2023. It's available now on pay-per-view. We did pick up also, decoding this video here, that we are going to be, each and every one of us, getting a haircut here somewhere in this transition. But the goal is to be able to make that back here in the short and medium term as we adjust and overcome these situations where there's perhaps power vacuums for humanity to kind of take control back over their finances. That's big. That's been a big theme for you also, Penny, in the last year, explaining to people that they needed to diversify out of the system to become self-abundant. Also, what are you suggesting to your audience members at pennykelly.com on how to navigate all of these changes and to deal with perhaps either the banking issues, the payment processor issues, and perhaps also haircuts at some level, at least on the short term here, as maybe the humanity gets their own control back over these economic systems? Go ahead.
I think the main thing that I've tried to promote is, first of all, don't be afraid, pay attention, be flexible. I have talked about food a lot. I have talked about consciousness a lot. I'm not quite as comfortable talking about the money thing because I'm not a financial person, and then people end up asking me all kinds of stuff. But I think in terms of money, what I haven't seen and I haven't heard, so I was really listening closely to what you guys were saying. In the world of ordinary finance, well, I'll call it ordinary finance, the regular financial system, over the last, I'm going to say 6 weeks, there's been this tremendous push, people saying January 3rd, it's over January 3rd. The Fed is done January 3rd. And so January 3rd came and went, and I was like, well, I don't hear anything. But when I went to look, what I saw was that this actually, I put this in one of the looksies. I went to see the Fed and I thought, okay, what does this look like now? And I'm thinking about the financial system, and what I saw was this long, tall, narrow, slender tower, and that was the Fed. And I'm looking at it thinking, what does that got to do with anything? And there was this humongous, I'm not sure if it was a boot or a giant rock that just fell on it and smashed the whole thing. And I looked at that and thought, uh-oh, I think the Fed really is done. So then I looked to see what was salvageable out of that. And the thing looked like there wasn't much if you weren't prepared. I think what Joe has just said and what we've all been saying is a little bit of cash, a little bit of crypto, a little bit of silver, some food, some extra underwear and socks. And in case your underwear is getting holy, get some new stuff, that'll last a couple of years. Because I think there's supply chain problems coming. And then the other thing was, who do you know? Who are you in communication with? Are you around people of like minds? It doesn't look good in some places. In other places, people band together just as tight as a drum. It's like we're together, and they are paying attention to who's even driving through their town. Other places are not very good. So there's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people aren't sending their kids to school, and they're afraid to go to work. And they're afraid to leave their kids home if they do go to work. So they're pushing to work from home if they're not already working from home. So we have to, I think the biggest thing is to stay flexible and to get creative. That's the bottom line. What do we want? What's our new world look like? What is, what is the future? How do we think about governance? When I wrote The Revival, that was all those questions, 5,000 questions in that book. Look at what this produced. What else could we do? So that's where I've been at.
Okay, very good. Richard, in the video I just recorded earlier today with Jim Willie, we looked at the System N video from Cliff High. We brought in some other data points, and what he was suggesting also that might be bigger on the radar even still than this derivative bomb is the fact that we're reaching this critical mass and this escape velocity with the BRICS and with the movement towards asset-backed currencies. Now, he talked about this triangle between the yuan, gold, and oil. And we also put out the speech that Putin did during Christmas about this world going back to this asset-backed currency. How do you see all that unfolding based on some of the spirit messages you got last year with the bridge of XRP into these new systems and this new maybe multipolar world of currencies and this new asset-backed currency here taking form on the planet? What would you say to the audience member on how you see that unfolding here in 2023?
All right. I just got to give you a quick vision I just got, and I thought this was funny as hell. Is when you were showing the Federal Reserve with the wall?
Yeah.
All right. What was brought to me in the Bible, they showed the walls of Jericho, and they were blowing the horns as they were walking around, and the walls tumbled. Instead, they had trumpeters walking around, and they're blowing their trumpets, and the walls fall in. Now, put your discernment into that one. Okay.
How about the 4 trumpeteers, Brunson brothers, to add to that, and Mr. T himself also? Sure, keep going.
All right. All right. So, for quite a while, I told you. Well, when I was in the hospital the different visions I had, and I saw NATO turning on itself. All right, and breaking up. I saw a tidal wave coming from Europe and hitting New York City, which was the debt. All right. I saw 2 financial systems, and they're going to fight back and forth. And I said the East would win in the beginning, okay, until they join together. Now, everybody's watching what's happening with the war, as we're seeing. But that's being really controlled in a real funny manner. So I'm going to just throw this out to all of you. And again, I always ask, everybody that listens to these things, so many of you are just so incredibly psychic. Put your discernment into what I give you here and bring it out yourself. All right. So what's happening right now with what we're watching over there is the depletion of Europe. The object is it's time to get rid of Europe and the financial system that controls Europe. Okay? What better way to do it? We need all these competitions that are going on. We're going to be eliminating them. Europe goes first. All right? They're going to deplete everything that they have in NATO, and they're going to eat it up. They will not have the money to reproduce it anymore. Sus. There goes NATO. All right. Now you have 2 financial systems fighting it out. All right. Again, the East will be doing better than the West. All right. But they will have to join hands and come together. So this is what we're watching happening here. Think about this. all of Europe is being financially destroyed right now. Every aspect of it is being destroyed.
Yeah.
All right. All the weaponry is being destroyed. They don't even have the money to create new weaponry. But, the US, yeah, Raytheon's going, yeah, baby, I'm making some money here. You see how the game's being played? So it's going to the industrial complex, okay, over here, as Europe is being sacrificed. And the sad part about the bullshit is the European people are being controlled by this group of people that have been deceiving them for a very, very long time, and they've got to stop them. Okay, it's all going to happen. All right, just take a look at it. And again, you don't really have to be a psychic to say, "Oh shit, that really is happening." Yeah, you think there's a reason? You actually think they're stupid and they're just doing this for fun? You don't think Putin could have gone in there within 90 days and taken the whole damn place out? Think about it. Think about it. Absolutely. Just like what we did to Iraq and these other places. What? We didn't send our people in there. We bombed the shit out of them for 90 days. There was nothing left, and we walked in. You're going to tell me that he can't do that? Of course he can. But this is, I just saw that orb go by me. Oh boy, here comes the orbs.
You're getting the confirmation there. And yeah, somebody says Jim Willie was on fire earlier today on the show. He was really saying what you're saying there too, that NATO is running out of cash, running out of tanks, running out of planes. Everything they're sending to that particular theater of war, without mentioning it, is being destroyed within 48 hours. So they're bleeding that system. And it kind of lends to the scenario you're talking about now. Guys, go check it out on pay-per-view. Really cool. I wanted to bring this up too. So this is also, guys, you can find it on my Twitter. This was Putin's speech here. So let me just read this, the English translation here. The economy of imaginary wealth is being inevitably replaced by the economy of real and hard assets. Joe, let me bring you up on the screen here too. There's a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. Let's go to the starred comments here. Gene said, do you have any insights on silver? Yeah. We'll get into silver in a second here. But you and I have been tracking here since the Queen Lizard's passing, this idea that perhaps the East would wrestle over control of the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association, or in better words, the price mechanism here for gold and silver around the planet. Now, I've been following the WebBot data for a number of years, and we've had this $600 silver target for a long time here. And this has been kind of put sideways, as with many predictions in crypto, in this weird lull period we've been in here of censorship and I guess this overpowering control matrix that we've been living for the last couple of years. But where do you see us on the timeline, Joe, of the WebBot data, the $600 silver, and the advent here of the BRICS taking over the controlling mechanisms here of gold and silver and other oil and asset-backed currencies? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting news when the LBMA was like, yeah, we're just going to kind of close down. You know, we were set up at the beginning to do price mechanism type stuff, and not a lot of banks are interested anymore, so we're just going to shut down. It's like, yeah, things been around for like 100 years, hasn't it? Like,
wow,
you're just going to do that now? You know, and again, Russia is, we're going to, we'll kind of take over that. You know, we'll set up a system to replace that, So, yeah, it's like, you'll hear the news story, but it's like the deal was probably already made behind the scenes. Everybody, in the know knows what's happening. I'm just thinking of my dream about $6 silver. So we talk about the earlier, the derivatives possibly coming here shortly. And I know Cliff Weiss, kind of saying, get ready for it soon. That I'm thinking might trigger the drop. And then maybe we find real price discovery and it just goes way, way, way up, because Cliff Weiss thinking the $600 silver is this year. He emailed us earlier and said, I'm just looking at that Twitter data, I think it's this year where we get the $600 silver. So, I'm thinking, again, the whole markets of all kinds implode. It's all paper garbage. It's all rigged. It'll probably all crash, including crypto.
Hold on, Joe. Just want to make sure I understood you and the audience understood you. Your thinking here is that the derivatives bomb might create the scenario where you see your $6 silver, and then from there going up to the 600 and perhaps unobtainium. Is that what you're saying?
Right, because because the derivatives market is the manipulation of everything. So when that mechanism gets destroyed, then you can't really rig the price, right? So they'll rig it one last time, so to speak, but as it implodes, let's say, I get my $6 silver and, $700, $800, $900 gold, whatever the gold was in my dream. I never could remember the price, but it was under 1,000. I remember that. And, again, things will get crazy. And then I'm thinking, okay, and maybe that's when Russia goes, okay, we're taking over. Maybe that's when that happens. And then all of a sudden you have this real price discovery. Everybody's trying to buy gold and silver. The things are skyrocketing. And you might also, there's this other possibility that we don't talk about much. And that is, what if the US dollar is dying and that's causing $600 silver? Because we're talking US dollars. So that could be another reason we see $600 silver. So we may get this big giant derivatives crash and everything. We got $6 silver. Next thing you know, the dollar's dying. So all this, imploded derivatives, and now they're printing money like crazy. Maybe they're just, we'll bail everybody out again. Who knows what they're going to do? And, the thing starts skyrocketing and the new, replacement dollars, or if that whole dollar system gets replaced, maybe it's in new dollars for all we know.
The new treasury note, maybe to replace the Federal Reserve note. Michael is asking on the screen, hey, ask Woo, dude. I will. Joe, just to add one more to that complexity there, I was talking again to Jim Willie earlier today, and he thought that this was very interesting. The Swiss National Bank is involved in this long dollar short gold trade that they've been trying to unwind now. And they're doing it in a very reckless way to protect themselves, basically, not the depositors, but that this might also play a big role in repricing gold and silver. Whereas one hand, them being long on the dollar was promoting FANGs, the Apples, all these tech stocks. And now what's going to happen is the exact reverse of that, where all that is going to crumble and gold and silver would go up on the other side. I showed a picture earlier about, again here, the central banks around the world accumulating gold at the most rapid clip in 55 years this year. And we see the opening of the LME, the London Metals Exchange, here with the lowest stock of silver in inventory. It's never happened before. So let's ask Richard also here too. Where do you see us on this timeline here to whether it's the $600 silver, which is really the opening gunshot here in the race as per Cliff Hall, and then the maybe $50,000 per tube that Spirits had told you about a couple of years ago. Richard, where do you see that here in the confluence of events that we're leading and dealing through right now?
Well, I'm also going to have the agreement that this year is where we're going to see a lot of these great breakups. Now, I want to two things I've got to bring up before I forget this. The picture of Putin we just had up there, dude, that's not Putin. No freaking way that is Putin. You're gonna tell me that's Putin? There's no freaking way.
Yeah, he never ages.
Nothing. I looked at it, I said, there's no way in hell that's him. Okay. Yeah. Now on to him. Okay. The $6 silver, okay, that Joe keeps seeing, I really believe what he might be catching is what I called a long time ago. I said, I saw a cord that was taken out of the wall and it was just dangling down. That was a disconnect. In other words, when everything goes crazy, there won't be any real price. Okay, until everybody comes together and go, whoa, we got a problem here. And then all of a sudden it's off to the races. So, so I don't even look at that number at anybody thinking that they're going to go buy it. I think that it won't exist in any manner. Okay, it'll just be something. Well, I'll give you $6 for this. Yeah, right. Okay.
Right.
So I'm not concerned about that. But this year, again, everything that's falling so rapidly, it's going to be a great shaking on all that. It's all. Right. I mean, we're all watching it. Yeah, it's happening.
Right.
And
I think this is the year we were speaking before the show here, Penny and I, before you guys logged in, where a lot of us who have been doing all the research, doing all the sacrifices, getting right with God or getting right with spirit here, are going to see the fruits of those labors and those sacrifices here in 2023. And conversely, those that are still promoting the old system that is crumbling, they're also going to récolter in French, to recoup or so. How do I say this in English? Anyways, to have the result from those bad investments. I'm sorry, I'm trying to translate from English. My third show here today.
Reap what you sow. You reap what you sow.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Penny, let me bring you up on this screen here too. Richard just mentioned something about $6 silver, or this wonkiness where we don't even know the silver. Go check out his last video here, Alert Comic Silver shutting down perhaps in January, which leads to this event where we don't have a price for silver. And so Pimney, I want you to talk on that, and also your remote viewing views or your look-sees about the $400 silver, $600 silver, the unobtainium. As you're doing your new look-sees here for 2023, where do those old look-sees kind of fit into the bigger picture here?
Okay, a couple of things that I want to mention. First of all, because I had seen the silver going up to 800, like it bounced up and then it went back down to 600 and it kind of rode along there. And that was like a year or two ago, but it was at the same period of time. Each time I saw it, it was always like toward the end of the year. So what I did this year as we started into January was, okay, let me just look at silver. And I have to say that energetically speaking, things unfold when the energetics are in the right relationships. We'll say it. And so let me use people dying, for instance. People would often come and say, my parent is sick. How long do you see them lasting? And what I always saw was that astrologically speaking, every single human being has 2 or 3, occasionally people have 4, but mostly 2 or 3 windows of opportunity to leave. And so what I did was to go look and see where are the windows of opportunity for silver to go up. And they were the same for the next 2 years, April or December, in both years. And so I thought, okay, so we have these windows. How much is it going to go up? And then I saw mass confusion, like, well, it went up, it went down, it went around. It was worth a dozen eggs one day. It was worth a car the next day. It was all over the place. And so I think what you guys are talking about in terms of price discovery is what we're going to have for a while. People were using everything. And I have to say this, as I was watching people dragging stuff out of their attic and their basement to try to find something of value that they could offer to somebody else who might need that. There was a lot of basement cleaning, a lot of attic cleaning, and there was a lot of what I'll call coming back into use of stuff that people had just chucked away. And so there was like a renaissance of usefulness that was around the planet, not just in the US, it was everywhere. And I kind of liked that. It was like, oh yeah, okay, that's common sense to me. So I don't see, let me say this, I saw silver ranging between like $5 and $2,000. That's I'm going to say an impossible range, except for the fact that in this time, when you look at some locations, they value silver much more and other people don't give a darn about it. So the location makes a difference in terms of what the silver is worth. The trade, whatever is needed, makes a big difference. And then, the people's mood and how anxious they are is the rest of it.
Well, right now there's a run on gold in Egypt, again, with these inflationary issues in the lower, maybe third level countries. We're seeing this even more, like we saw in Brazil in the last couple of years. Also, Michael is asking, hey, JC, ask Richard the same question. Actually, it wasn't $30,000 per tube. Let me bring up our old video from, I believe, the first YouTube channel. Maybe it was the second one, Richard, with your famous disappearing shirt here. Do you still see $50,000 per tube for silver, Richard?
All right. So there were three steps that I saw. The first one was $10,000 a tube. So that equated to $500 an ounce, right? And then I thought that was over. And they said, no. And then they showed me $30,000 a tube. And I went, holy mackerel. And they said, no. And then they showed me $50,000. But what they said is when you reach that you will not be able to keep it. All right. Because it's going to be used for something. And it's just going to be one of those things that it's more important for humanity versus using it to trade for whatever you want to do. So I saw three steps.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, what
were those steps, Richard? 10,
10, 30, 50.
10, 30. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Per tube, Penny, he was saying.
Per tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you got what, 20 ounces?
20 in a tube. Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Let me bring this up also here. Andy just sent me the new discounts here for the Beyond Mystic audience. If you're looking for silver, you can do so here at beyondmystic.net/silver. The 2022 Krugerrands at $4.19 over spot, and the Royal Canadian Mint silver maple leafs at $4.15 over spot. Again, that's beyondmystic.net/silver. And if you're looking at ordering this from Canada, also, if you click on this link here, it'll bring you to mfbullion.ca. They have their weekly specials there as well. And of course, the Beyond Mystic silver bars are still available for you guys there as well. Joe, before we went too fast, you talked about, I don't think that's Putin, or somebody else was saying, we're agreeing that perhaps that's not Putin there. And you're saying, hey, he's not aging. Refined Hayseed is saying, hey, JSNIP has an age. Are you sure he's JSNIP4? Well, I found an older picture of JSNIP4 here when I used to remember him doing videos either in his car or in front of the laundry room, I think it was. I think, Joe, you've aged a little bit compared to this picture here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what vehicle that, looking in there, like, what vehicle is that? It might have been the old Jeep.
Or was that the minivan?
Or no, the Suburban. Maybe the Suburban. Or the Tahoe, possibly.
Yeah, you look like you have a little bit more hair there also, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a Chewbacca in this one.
Okay. Always a good time to have a little bit of humor here. But going back to some very serious stuff here. Earlier today in Brazil, basically Bolsonaro supporters here storming the National Congress, mass arrests here happening. Is this also coming to Washington, D.C.? Is this a precursor to perhaps the case that is before the Supreme Court right now? Does it come after that? Does it come after perhaps a Mr. T arrest here too? Where do I start with this one? Penny, let me bring you up on the screen here. What are you seeing in terms of maybe this type of rioting or civil war still in the United States? You had seen something in your past look-sees last year where we could perhaps see a split of the country. Is that still on the timeline? Is something more akin to this on the timeline? Situation us here for the audience.
I keep hoping that it'll all settle down. It's so I was looking at the Brunson case just today and thinking, okay, all right, it looks like they're going to hear this. I don't know when. Does anybody know if they set a date for the hearing?
Well, the conference was Friday, and I believe it hasn't been announced yet now, but that the Supreme Court has decided that they will, in fact, hear the case.
Right.
So that was the first step, and apparently we could be introduced to that news tomorrow, so say some of the supposed insiders here, but I don't know that for a fact. But keep going.
Okay, so I was thinking, okay, they're going to hear the case, and then all the pieces that I had seen in last month's look-see, where all the the pieces that Cliffy had seen about energy going up or emotions going up in December and then going up massively in January. Yeah. And then the stuff that Dick Allgaier had seen where congressmen were puking and crying and things were closing down for the last time. So all of that came together last month, and I thought, oh, the Brunson case is going to be decided in favor of Brunson. And we're going to see, because I had seen that January, there was like a coup that happened, and we were under martial law at the beginning of the year. I wasn't sure it was January, but I said January. So all those pieces together, I was following up on today thinking, okay, so what comes after martial law? And it didn't look as good as I wanted it to look. There were two paths. There are so many choices. And it's much more dynamic than people think it is. So if, let's say that we decide in favor, the Supreme Court decides in favor of Brunson, and we have a period then following the removal of all the congressmen, of discovering that some people have been pre-selected to take over or fill in for some of those people who got booted out or taken out. And that triggers some people into not trusting what's happening. And then there are others who are saying, just put somebody in there and get a government back together again. Because while we didn't have a working government temporarily, China was doing all kinds of stuff. And so that made people nervous. And so that was one path. People saying, okay, just put somebody in there. That doesn't necessarily satisfy everybody. And it looked like there was still a chance for us to move into fighting and break up at the end of this year or into the middle of next year, 2024. If they don't decide in favor of Brunson and they skip it, then energy starts building. People are angry. A lot of people drop out. What I saw was this big pursuit of Republicans and anybody who supported Trump being arrested or being harassed or being, charges made up that were mostly BS. And that angered a lot of people. And so if they don't decide for Brunson, then the people that are arresting, like they go after more January 6 people big time. So that leads to civil war, and then that leads to breakup. And it just didn't look like it was real good. We could skip that. We could skip the civil war and go right to breakup. But it looked like, okay, there's still a ways to go to sort things out. We still have to decide or deal with the corruption that was in place. So that's as far as I took it. It's like, this doesn't look like it's real smooth, but to me, it's better to deal with the crap than to be dealing with the corruption. So that makes sense. Oh, I can't hear you.
He's freezing.
By mistake here. People can go watch Joe's channel here, JSNIP4 on YouTube. He just put out one of his latest dream videos. If you want to have the whole details of his dream, go there. But Joe, I wanted to ask you, as we're seeing this now here in Brazil, you and I have been tracking this, of course, since we had the interview with 107. And folks, I want to direct you to this interview here too, where we got into detail of why this Brunson case was important and how perhaps very impactful, how big an impact it would have in not just righting a wrong, but righting a wrong in a scenario where we had the least amount of friction, turmoil, and perhaps even social unrest. So to have a neutral remedy as opposed to a highly political charge remedy. So Joe, going back to Brazil here, what do you think here? You posted a few dates on your Patreon here for your members. What do you think is about to transpire here in the next couple of days? Given the fact that it appears now that this Brunson case is moving forward, but at the same time, we're having pressures from the Saudis to arrest Trump also. Where does all this land here? And as Entheos said here, January, one word, it appears that we're there now. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't Saudi, wasn't it? Iraq.
Oh yeah, sorry, Iraq oil
Right.
producer. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, asking to arrest Trump, some nonsense. But yeah, I mean, I just went to bed, and I asked. This was like on the 4th or 5th. I forget the actual date, but it was the 4th or 5th of this month, and I'm like, Spirit, this whole Dick Allgaier scenario, Congress, most of them getting removed. Is that still in the works? Is it gonna happen? What's it gonna look like? Or whatever is gonna happen, gonna look like? Can you give me anything on that? Can you show me in a dream? And I didn't get any dream, but as soon as I woke up, it was Congress, the 6th, another date, and then another date. And these 3 dates are close to each other.
Okay.
You're not waiting long.
Okay.
We're gonna, by the time we get out of next week, the dates will have hit.
Okay.
So, I don't know what it means, but it was the word Congress, this date, that date, that date. I mean, that's exactly how it came in. I just sat there as I woke up going, huh. And the fact that it's Congress in these 3 dates, I'm really thinking it must, and this is just me guessing though, it's got to be the Supreme Court case. Because an interesting thing was they said, the 6th, we're going to look at the case. Okay, we're going to go to conference. And then the Brunson update was one of them had said, I think on their website, something like, we may hear more, or the Supreme Court may tell us more, or should tell us more on Monday the 9th, or something along those lines. So it's like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then, so let's just assume, how's that going to look? Is it going to be they come out and say, yes, we're going to go into our chambers on the next couple of days. We're going to, discuss this and rule on it. Maybe that's what we hear on the 9th. And then we're all sitting here waiting. Okay, when? Hurry, hurry, hurry. And if that happens like that, I'm thinking, okay, well, the 3rd date they gave me is probably the answer. Here's how we rule. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, they could rule, well, we don't rule in favor of Brunson. It still would make sense where Spirit said Congress, because Congress is in question, these 3 dates, but I'm more hopeful that it is what we saw, what Dick saw, because he did see that. And when I saw him write that and saw that for the first time, there's certain things you look at or experience in your life where you just get this thing like, oh my God, that's going to be so right. Like when Michelle Whitedove gave Theta to Pete and all this, like I knew when he called me, oh my God, she's right. Like this is truth being spoke at me, and I know it. So that's why I went crazy buying Theta. So this thing for me with Dick is like, so if it doesn't happen out of the Supreme Court, and I'm still going to say I think it's going to happen, and maybe it's the military that makes it happen. I can't say. I don't know how it looks, but again, with Entheos, just he's replying to people who are saying, look, Entheos, we just saw this big Trump video. This big announcement, and it's kind of a nothing burger. He's running for 2024. Dude, we got 2 more years. We won't make it 2 more years.
Right.
It'll be too late. They just did the blank, blank, blank with the midterm. So, he goes, I'm not even going to vote. And Entheos goes, January. This January, not next year, January, not this January. So I'm thinking we're going to see some really good, positive for us people events here this month, like soon. And that would make me feel like, I think the Supreme Court just might rule in favor.
That fits with my dream about the courts. So
what's that?
That fits with my dream about the courts that I was talking about before we came on.
Oh, being courted.
Being courted. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, let me bring this up in context. Jill is making a point here. McCarthy is a swamp rat. That's interesting because if in fact the Supreme Court is moving forward with this case, and if in fact they go to the end of it and suggest a remedy, meaning that FRAUD basically annuls everything that precedes or oh my God, I can't speak tonight in English. I'm having so much trouble.
Vitiates, I think is the word, right? Vitiates.
Right. So essentially making the last 2 years null and void. And so in the last couple of days of last week, we're seeing this speakership vote, all of these rounds, and a real shit show, to say the least. And a lot of people are saying, why is he even supporting this guy? He, voted for a lot of things that we don't agree with, et cetera, et cetera. And here we had Gates, Matt Gates here, suggesting that Mr. T should be the Speaker of the House. And as I was looking at this show, it looked like a show, like a clown show. I was saying, are they just stalling for time for perhaps the real remedy to be brought forward either by the Supreme Court or maybe even by the military? Richard, what do you think is going to actually transpire here moving forward? Are we seeing a militaristic event, a heavy hand? Are we seeing it from the court systems to try to remove all the political appearance of influence? What do you see moving on? And was this a big shit show here for the speakership, also buying time for perhaps a remedy to be put in place?
I think it's both buying time. I want you to go back to that photo you just put up. I want to point something out to you.
Which one?
This one here?
Look at the number after Donald.
7.
What do you see? Okay.
Well, Donald's is 7 and then 0.
Okay. Now let's just think about it. When Donald was brought in, everybody talked about the 7s, right?
He was 7 years, 7 weeks, 7 days, that whole thing. Remember that?
Right. So
with Trump.
Ain't that another coincidence? I really believe that when this is all finished out, that we're not going to have the government in a way that we look at it now. I believe it's going to be a lot smaller and it's going to change completely. And I also believe that a lot of the Dick All-Guy's view there, I keep getting that it's almost like a twofold situation, that something really big has happened in the United States that maybe nobody thought that it ever would, either geologically occurring or we can get into another situation, which I don't want to say. I think it's a combination, and I really believe that our government's going to change completely in a way that, that we would never believe. And that is what's going to happen.
In a positive way.
Well, yeah, well.
Some people think it's positive.
Yeah.
And Joe's numbers, I think what was 6, 9, and 12.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that you'll find out on the Brunson case or information on it on the 12th. I think the number 12 is very, very big. And this is, how Penny said you have many choices, and we do. This is a very critical timeline. If we find out everything's coming to this point, and if we find out that the Supreme Court is totally captured, well, I believe the timeline we go down is where I told you I saw the blue helmets come in.
Yeah.
And I saw individual states that it was almost like a toll you had to go through to go from one state to the other. And I saw a lot of fires. Okay. Now, I always believe we could change this because it is through decisions. There's no doubt in my mind to it. But I didn't see the fires in every single city. I didn't. Okay. It was like very sporadic where they're having these problems. And I really believe that we're about to touch that timeline because this is really huge. If they don't do what they're supposed to do right here, holy hell breaks out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you could see fires if the Supreme Court rules in favor. We know we'll see some fires from Antifa in very specific small areas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's I believe this is a pinnacle point right here. You're looking absolutely two timelines sitting right here on the decisions that somebody's going to make here. Okay, people want things to happen one way or the other. It's just like, you know, I want to bring this up quickly. I know I'm backtracking a little. I wanted to bring it up earlier when we were talking about gold and silver and collapsing the EU. Okay, kiss the euro and that bullshit goodbye, and kiss the LMA goodbye. Okay, you know why? The two biggest gold holders in the world, believe it or not, is the United States. Okay, I was shown that why do you think the army has bases in certain areas, or you cannot go over to the caves? They have so much freaking gold, and they want to bring the system down, and they're trying so hard to do it correctly, but they got to get rid of, right? Yeah. The other people in Europe that have been controlling the gold, okay, trade, and they kiss them goodbye. All right. So understand, okay, the system over here wants a gold-backed system because how much we're sitting on. Forget Fort Knox. It's all sitting there right in the freaking ground. Everything that they want, okay, and more than what you can even understand. So in turn, you think about the rarity of gold. Silver's more rare than gold. It is. Okay.
It's music to Big Swear's ears, I'm sure. And if you guys follow the investigation of where all of this amazing gold is in the United States, including maybe Chocolate Mountain, also on top of the Grand Canyon, go check it out here at roadtoruta.com. Penny, I want to ask you, Cliff had this stuff in the WebBot data for the last 10 years when Joe and I were downloading the old, I think there was the Alta reports and there was the immediacy data, the IDRs. He talked about these weird energies from space. And so we went through a civilization where as kids, we all saw a yellow sun. Now we have a white sun. We're moving into this new area. What do you see for 2023, maybe in terms of astrological alignments that are also either conducive to humanity taking back the reins of control in their own sovereignty, and perhaps also the demise here of those old power structures that were born out of the previous age? Situate us here with all of these weird energies from space and what these astrological alignments might and how they might affect us.
Well, I'm not really all that great with astrology, but I do track what's happening in the science world around micronovas and things like that. So I'll share a little bit about that because I think that's critical. The thing that I think we need to understand is that back when I wrote Volume 4 of Consciousness and Energy, I outlined this whole micronova thing and what happened, and it was awful. And I was like, oh my God. Well, in the couple of years since then, what I have continued to study and learn, thank God, is that there are many intensities of micronova. And the signs that we are moving into a micronova, the 12,000-year big one, those are unfolding exactly as they would expect them to unfold. The sun does a micronova when a couple of things, there's only two things that cause a micronova, or this is what they're saying at this point. One is that there's a boost of electricity that it hits the sun. Now, let me say this, when you look at the big structure of the universe, and I have had the great privilege of seeing this more than once, many times. It's macro and micro level. There are these nets that cross one another, and where they cross, there'll be a spinning, and that'll be a sun. Okay, so there are these currents that feed right into the sun. And they come from several different directions, but the main ones come from the center of the universe or the center of the galaxy. So anyway, that can cause the sun to go poof. And the other thing is that it has collected too much dust in its atmosphere and its surface, and it can't send out its frequencies as easily. And when that dust and crap and corruption builds up, then the sun, you know, it's like all of a sudden it goes kaboom, you know, like it cleans itself. So those things have a big impact on us on this little planet. This is a little planet compared to the sun, and we're pretty close to it. And a lot of those things are happening right as with the exact timing they have predicted. If this micronova is going to happen, we should see this. We should see that. The thing that has been so comforting is that they now say that depending on the cycles, there's a 12,000 year cycle, a 6,000 year cycle, a 3,000 and a 1,500 year cycle. And depending on the cumulative strength of that energy, you get the 12,000 year result. And if all these other things have been little piddly things and lots of accumulation has occurred, then the micronova at 12,000 years will be big. So what we're seeing is that there are little signs. The sun has changed color. It is the rotation of the earth has speeded up exactly as they thought. The poles are wandering. They expect the you know, they're afraid that the earth might bob over 90 degrees and bob right back up. That creates you know, a mess, but it puts us back where we started. If the poles change place, we may rotate the other way. But all of that, I think, is what the government has not wanted us to see or to understand. And they have created a whole lot of distractions, partly to keep us from preparing for that. People survive the micronova, especially if it's mild. It can just be that the dust around the sun blows our way and obscures our sun for 2 years or maybe 3. And then it starts to clear. There can be the massive effect that I described in my book, but there's a range. There's like 10 different ranges. And I think, personally, our consciousness can be developed to have some impact on that, and certainly to be resilient enough to survive and to use the new science that we're discovering, how to use some of those new energies to build a new world. Why not?
Fascinating. Guys, if you want to have a more information here on consciousness and energy, the different volumes, you can find those at pennykelly.com here on the screen. And if you're looking for more insights on astrology, we just have a new brand and new composition here of our Astro Woos coming up for 2023. We've individuated each of the reports here per your zodiac sign, making it easier for you to have a personal reading here, both for the tarot and the astrological perspective here for each of your signs. Those are available now here on pay-per-view. Really, really cool new products. And on top of that, starting this week, Meg Moonbeam, a new addition astrologer to our team, is going to be making these weekly forecast reports here for Beyond Mystic. So you can find that on our YouTube channel for free, of course. And also Sophia, who you'll know, tarot. So looking at these energies from the tarot perspective here, again here on the weekly forecast basis for you guys here. Seeing as there's all of these crazy changes happening here, we're trying to glean a little bit more and forecast so we can stay nimble and adaptive to all of these changes. Richard, I want to ask you about ETs for a second here, but I just realized I forgot to mention one thing about these energies. What you're talking about here, these novas, these micronovas, Penny, how does that affect the sun and perhaps our Schumann resonance? We saw in the last week or so here, we had these huge blackout periods of non-reporting on the Schumann resonance. And at the same time as this was happening, I was getting an influx of emails from people saying, oh my God, I'm having heart palpitations, problems with our stomach. I can't sleep. It feels like I'm sleeping on a live wire. What's happening there? Some people are suggesting that there is a positive effect to all of this. It might not be good for the bad guys, but for the rest of humanity, we might be up-leveling through all of these energies. Can you touch on that briefly here, and then we'll go back to Richard here and talk about the ET influence for 2023. Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly. I think the benefit, the long-term result of all of that is going to be that people understand that they are electromagnetic creatures and that the frequencies of everything around them is critical. sun, the moon, the wind, the rain, the materials you build your house out of, the people you talk to, and the words that they speak. All of those are frequencies, and they have a huge impact on us. And we have to be mindful of that. I think it's going to be a wonderful effect. But when the Schumann resonance goes up, blood pressure goes up. Heart rate goes up. When the Schumann resonance goes down, the heart doesn't have anything managing it, and so it goes berserk. You can get almost an atrial fibrillation kind of effect.
Right.
So yeah, it pays to learn how to breathe. Keep yourself, breathe all the way down to your toes, and feel your whole body, and that helps to stabilize it during those periods.
Okay, very, very good advice. Richard, let me bring you up on here also. This is a little bit more controversial in the sense that for many people watching this show and who've been following Cliff High was calling out this individual here for the last number of years, was involved with a lawsuit. He was suggesting that this person was full of shit, quote unquote. And apparently now, of course, if you listen to many of the clips here from this latest deposition, this individual is admitted to having invented a lot of the content that was aforementioned as being truthful. Now, in order for us to have this rapprochement, which was also in the WebBot data reports, where we would come to understand and maybe reconnect with our ET star families, we have to get rid of those false prophets, or what Cliff High called the cult of the blue chickens, and others. There's more of all of that. Where are we in that process of eliminating all of those distractions with disclosure and really getting into the organic disclosure of humans having one-on-one real contact, and this being more out in the open in the human consciousness field? Go ahead.
I thought we were already having one-on-one contact. Okay. All right.
We are.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, that other guy that you showed his photo of, maybe he just likes cordon bleu chicken. You know what I'm saying? That's a pretty good food. Listen.
Wow.
There's good and bad out there and everything. Anybody who thinks that every entity that's out there that's superior than us, they're just sweethearts. Well, that's horseshit. Yeah. There's good and bad. All right. There's been an influence here for thousands and thousands of years. There's nothing new. You know what? There's so many species that are living here on this planet right now, below us in the water and every place else. I mean, come on. All right. They're here. All right. Will we get the complete blowout of it? I don't think we will. Okay. I don't think in our lifetimes will we understand all of it, because I think it just goes beyond us, because we're dealing with many, many dimensional beings. All over the place. So, and I want to back up a little on, what Penny Kelly was saying about the micronovas and things like this.
Sure.
Listen, telling you from the bottom of my heart, the weather systems are going to get so freaking serious this year. Yeah. Okay. Earthquakes, everything you can think of. Because we're interacting, okay, with other planets that are passing through. And it's like electrical currents. It's happening, okay, and they're going to be bizarre. And all I can say to people is expect the unexpected. A 70-degree day, 20-degree day, okay? 6 inches of rain, 2 feet of rain. All right. This is going to be worldwide. And do they know it? You bet your ass. Why do you think they're in a hurry trying to get this all done? Because after the dust is settled, who's going to be in charge? That's what this is all about. Okay. This change there's no way to stop this change. But does that mean we're all destroyed? Well, if that's true, every Wednesday night I have karaoke on the other side. Make sure you show up, okay? and Snippy, you're damn good at it. So you better be there.
Joe, let me ask you this also. In terms of manifesting your own destiny here, a big part of the road to self-mastery is adapting and overcoming and capitalizing on change. Now, you've done so in earnest. I've known you for a number of years. You went from being a self-made man, blue-collar worker, daily job, not traveling at all, to now being this world-traveling guy, treasure hunter, exiting the debt matrix of the mortgage scenarios. You have your own helicopter. Now, talking abundance aside, putting that aside now, what comes with being individualized and self-active and creating your own abundance, as we're all being called to do here in the age of Aquarius? For a lot of people, that is very scary. It's like unshackling from the system that gave them comfort, whether it was true or not, in terms of the narrative of being safe and secure by your nanny state. That creates a big uncomfortable energy field for most people. Now, you've gone through massive changes over the last 10 years that I've known you. What would you say, and I'm going to ask the other two members the same here, we're all going to be called to make massive changes here in 2023 and perhaps for the next 20 years as we move into this new age of Aquarius. How was your experience in managing that change? And what advice do you give to people here who are on that brink now of self-actualizing, detaching from the old systems, and creating the world that they want to create for themselves? What would you say, Joe?
You have to go with the flow. With the change. When the change comes, whether it's good or bad, you have to accept it, what it is, and then start figuring out, what am I going to do about it? And most of the time, it's how do I work with it, not what am I going to do about it? It's how do I work with this change? Even if you don't like the change, how do I work with this right now while it's here? And if that makes a sharp turn into something else, well, I don't want to wait for the turn to be completely done. And then I'm playing catch up and something that, could have ruined myself or ruined myself financially or something. But that's the biggest thing. You have to, it doesn't take some kind of special person to look at what's happening around us as individuals, local, whatever, and just see this change of, that's coming. And when you see it in your area, I mean, let's just say like what Wudu's talking about, and wow, we're having some of the most incredible storms and weather patterns we've ever seen. If someone's sitting here going, what could I do to start a business dealing with any of that? I guarantee you there's going to be some stuff you can do, work for yourself. You don't have to work for anybody anymore, that you're going to be able to put stuff together, do things for people that no one thought of before because these problems weren't here before. That's right. And if that problem is everywhere, essentially to some extent, could you just imagine how many people would be in need with certain things, whether that's little small growing food systems, hydroponic systems, because of certain farmland keeps getting flooded or something. You're like, okay, we can do that. Or, you're a person that has, certain tools or certain equipment for certain stuff. Like, oh yeah, I never thought I'd go into plowing streets for snow in my neighborhood. And the next thing I know, it's like doing lawn care, right? I've got people paying me whatever, $10, $15 a month or maybe, I don't know what the hell it is. Lawn care is way more than that down here, but well, whatever it is to push out snow in someone's driveway or whatever it is, just stuff that, just so be prepared to look for opportunity. That's probably the best way to say this. Look for opportunity in change. Whether you like the change or not, there's going to be opportunities that pop up and you might benefit from it.
Right. And Cliff High used to call this era that we're moving into the make a way civilizations, where we would have to make our own way. So you're kind of alluding to that now, Joe, and appreciate that. Guys, join me this Thursday night with Meg Moonbeam. This is going to be our first inaugural show here of Manifest a Destiny. We're going to be talking about this here, manifesting our own destiny. And also next week, Jay Widener is back on the show for the 4th or 5th installment here of the Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time. You really don't want to miss those episodes. They're talking about all of these changes and why the controllers are doing the crazy things they're doing now. And that gives you a hint of how to maybe best manage and position yourself here through all of this chaos. So stay tuned for all of that. But Penny, what was interesting, what Joe was saying there too, I remember Cliff talking about Joe 10 years ago as seeing him in the Webbot data in the future, calling him Enterprise Joe. Well, the enterprising young man that we saw here finding solutions to his neighbors when he was a kid grew up to being an enterprising adult here. And this is what we're all being asked to do here as we move into the age of Aquarius. Speak about that. How we need to find those solutions. How do we find solutions to the problems that are going to be ahead of us here, and how universe is going to reward action here in this transition?
Yeah, I have seen a number of times that people are just at a loss once the jobs, old system based on jobs goes down. And it goes down quite a bit. I mean, it already has. And there's this sort of a floundering for a while. And then people begin to recognize the difference between a job and work. And work is something that actually, fills a need. It produces something. It takes care of a problem. And that what appears to happen is that people just stumble into their own businesses of the future, because they discover that, Aunt Susie needs this done. Aunt Susie told so-and-so that I did that, and now she's telling, 6 other people that I do this or I'm available for this. And people end up with small businesses that are much more, I'm going to say much more tight. I'm not sure that that's the right word. They're much more compact, and they're much more service oriented, and they're much more realistic in their pay. And that, what I see is there's this proliferation of people online offering all sorts of services. People gather together. Some stay right where they're at, but some actually move to new places and look for people of like minds and try to work with people of like minds, or who, when I say people of like minds, they find people that are living the way they would like to live. So if that's a farming life, that's one group. If that's a manufacturing, small manufacturing, that's another group. If that's medical and healing, that's another kind of grouping. And people find one another, and the long-term result down the road is, I think it's beautiful. People are self-sufficient. They are problem solvers. They have returned to critical thinking. They are nobody's fool anymore. And I like that.
Oh, very good. Thank you for that. Richard, in one of the videos, maybe a year or two ago, Cliff was talking about entering this new age and saying how investing in yourself and investing in your education was priority number one. So knowledge is power. I took that to heart. I created this Beyond Mystic Academy, where we're trying to teach people here how to up level on many levels here. But what's interesting in the next couple of weeks here, I'm working with Dave, by the way, Joe, on this, the Woo Entrepreneur thing. This speaks directly here on how to bridge perhaps the knowledge of the past that you had in the old system, and how to bridge that into the new system, and continuing to create abundance for yourself, not relying on all of these old structures that are crumbling around you. So check that out. That's BeyondMystic.Academy, coming soon. But Richard, what do you make of all of this? Whether that's up leveling spiritually, as you've been guiding and teaching Joe here on these dreamscapes and these shamanic rituals, how do you think people should educate themselves and invest in themselves here to be the best that they can be as we hit the ground running here in this new world that's basically a blank canvas for us to create in front of us? Richard?
Well, this new world has already started. Many people are going through things now that they've never gone through before. And, one thing I've learned with spirit is when you quiet yourself, okay, you can talk with them. All right. They will always give you what you need. All right. Maybe not what you want. And the key here is, I think we've all said the same thing. It's adapting to the change. All right. It's no different than when the first credit card came out. Now we say, what are you, crazy? A piece of freaking plastic? What the hell is this? And then they said the same thing about a cell phone. People used to carry it on their freaking back. Now
That's just a fad.
Yeah, now cell phones are more powerful than the computers. All right. So this is not something to go, this is a horrible. No, we are changing humanity. It has to. It has to for us to make the next leap up. All right. All the energies on this planet is going to change. You know, with the crossing of the planet, I said 2 years ago that people will be talking about the human residence, that it will continue to increase. And in turn, we're going to become more spiritual. You need to go within yourself. All right. We all have that light within us to create and also to connect with Creator. We need nobody else to do that. It's within us. But you got to find that quiet space, all right, to do that. And that's where your discernment comes in and adapt. In the very beginning, I said to you guys, it's like the greatest game of tag. You don't want to get tagged out right here. Okay. So what do? You adapt as you go through time here and understand change, okay, is coming. It's inevitable. You are not stopping it. You're either going to get on the train or you're going to go over to the other side. It's really simple. That's where we come from.
That's right.
Okay, we don't come from here. We're spiritual entities.
Yeah.
Okay, we're visiting, and then we go back home. You know, one thing that I cannot stand on the religious factor of things, this is the end times. No shit. The minute you took your first breath, you're in your end times. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, really? No shit. Okay. Okay, now get over it. There is no death.
Now live a little, for fuck's sakes.
Listen, while you're here,
Yeah.
put your print in the sand. Make a difference. Show love. You all are going to have the opportunity here to reach your hand out and to help somebody else. To become who you are supposed to become. All right? Remember, love is a vibration. All right? And anytime you give that or say it, you're changing individuals. All right? That's what it's all about. We're going to change. Don't freak out about it. Just adapt to it. Okay? It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
There's a French, un dicton en français. It goes something like this. Mieux ne vaut pas avoir vécu que de ne laisser aucune trace de son existence. So better to not have lived than to not leave a trace of your existence. You're just talking about leaving traces in the sand.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
But think of it. I mean, when you go back over the other, we're only here for 60 to 90 years. Okay. We have everlasting life.
Yeah.
Not in this physical body. Man, I would definitely look like shit in another 50 years from now. Okay. I gotta go. See that orb go by?
Oh, heck yeah, I did.
You know what they say though? 120 is the new 50.
Right here.
You know what they say? 120 is the new 50 there, Richard. So you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
This new technology is coming out.
Whoever invented that is full of shit.
We're already at the almost the time to go here. Joe, before we go, Richard was just talking about educating yourself here and being able to adapt to what's coming. You've made a namesake for yourself here, teaching people about this new financial system taking place here. Before we go, so two things. What do you have for people here who are just learning about this now and who want to get involved into this financial market here, perhaps ahead of the game, ahead of this big panic to own moment that is predicted here in the Webbot data? And also, how can people find you and what do you have here on patreon.com/JSNIP4? Joe.
Yep. So we've got mainly the middle one that's highlighted is the only one you really need, $20 a month. And that's where I post some of my private information if it's worth, I feel like it's worth posting for they'd be interested in, like dream wise, maybe some interesting things coming up that I saw. I'll get crypto stuff from time to time for my dreams, or Woo Woo Dude will give me something. I post it on there. We're currently in a couple trades right now, just some, from the Woo Woo. And there's some videos and a few things there to teach some of the newbies, like if they don't have a clue how to, navigate that kind of thing too. So my YouTube channel is JSNIP4 2, and JSNIP4 is Patreon. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And words of advice, maybe just keep it for this month here, as January, as NTO Shines was saying, was the month. What would you say to your friends and families right now who are kind of nervous with everything that's going on right now? Quickly, what would you say?
Hold on. Hold on tight.
That's what I was going to say.
Not necessarily hodl tight, just hold on tight. That covers everything.
What was that line in what was that Clinton Eastwood movie? Drop your cocks and grab your socks. What was that? What was that movie from?
I don't remember that. I haven't seen much of his movies.
Oh, okay. Anyways, he's storming a hill there. Anyways, it's kind of funny. Okay, I'll come back to Richard for the end here also. Penny, words of wisdom here moving forward, and do you want to guide the audience members here to not just your books on pennykelly.com, but also perhaps your Patreon with the teen consciousness? What do you have there for people who want to go a little bit deeper here and invest in themselves here and their education as we move into the age of Aquarius?
Oh. Well, I've got a bunch of books, that just share my journey, and it gives people insight into what happens when there's a massive change in consciousness, because it's not an easy journey. So there's all the books. Those are on my website. You can get to Tea and Consciousness on my website as well. We do a Tea and Consciousness. I used to do them every Monday, and then we switched to Wednesday, and now we do some on Wednesday and some Tuesday and some Thursday. So they're hard to get into. So you do have to kind of be ready to sign up. But Tea and Consciousness it's about asking questions and getting answers. I try to answer as many questions as I can in a 2-hour period. And the questions can be anything. And then I have on Patreon, I post a lot of my work, conversations with Daphne about spiritual awakening, consciousness, all kinds of stuff happening in the world. I am just about to launch the school that we have been working on for 2 years now. And I think on the 17th, we're going to launch that. And my classes, we're going to end up putting all my classes. The goal of the classes is to help people expand their consciousness and navigate the world. I think I want to follow up on something that Woo Woo Dude was saying about, actually everybody kind of mentioned it, but that whole thing about learning, the universe itself brings you right along with it. As it changes, you will naturally adapt to the frequency shifts. And yes, you'll feel the difference. That's when you can feel it, then you know something's happening. But don't be afraid to wake up a little bit more, feel whatever's happening, integrate that. That's part of your power. So I think that's probably all I'll say.
That's great. Really great advice. And in terms of the launch, where do people find that information? Are you going to post that
we'll post that everywhere. We'll post that everywhere. Patreon, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, all kinds of places.
Okay, very good. And Richard, you're next here, or last but not least. Mad Max says Heartbreak Ridge. I think it's Heartbreak Ridge is the name of the movie I was looking for. Jean says Full Metal Jacket. It's one or the other, but I believe Mad Max had it. Drop your cocks and grab your socks. Okay, it was a funny wartime kind of movie and Macho Man movie. They don't make those like that anymore. Richard, words of advice here on how to navigate all of these crazy changes. And of course, I'll let the people know here how they can have an amazing reading with you here at woowoodude.com and what to expect. And those are really cool readings one-on-one with the Woo Woo Dude himself.
Yeah, when it comes to the readings, you never know what to expect.
Expect the unexpected.
It is what it is. And again, everybody here has touched on it. Listen, It's just change. Okay, don't overreact to it. All right, adapt to it. All right, but we can get through this. All right, that's just all about humanity here. You know, I mean, just flow with this. That's all. That's all I can say. Just flow with it. You know, don't freak out. Love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Thank you so much for joining us here this evening for this edition of the Wacky Woo with Mr. JSNIP4, Penny Kelly, and Ooh Dude. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and go find Joe on his second YouTube channel there. We just got up and running again in the last couple of months after the last censorship round. He's still looking for parts of his community there. And of course, you can find Penny Kelly also on YouTube at Penny Kelly. So please go and share the love to all of these amazing people. And yeah, check the schedule here for the next couple of shows here in the next couple of days. You'll see again here Sophie with the weekly tarot forecast here, the Beyond Tarot, as well as Meg coming up here for the Beyond Astro weekly forecast on January 11th, I believe is her first show. I love you guys. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Yeah.
Hasta